Good evening, everyone. I was anticipating that too much, the greeting too much. Good evening. Welcome to Monday Night Muse. I'm your host, Sound Engraver. Happy to see you. And I think YouTube is working okay. I might see how YouTube is going. I did see a bit of a delay in the chat on StreamYard. Wasn't catching up with YouTube, but I went in, went out, and hopefully that was okay. Gonna go ahead and mute myself on YouTube. So I have YouTube on, just can't hear myself, can't hear that 5-second delay. So of course, before I get started, welcome to all of you. And all right, people, looks like the professor's already saying Cam and Mike sound great. I don't even have to say it anymore because you guys know that I will say, well, how's audio? So I'm glad it sounds great. It's been weird. We've had a drop in temperature and a rise in temperature. So I've actually, it's dropped temperature to a point where I'd have to turn on the heat. And then I actually have no heat now and just the fan. So, you might see me excuse myself and adjust the thermostat. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. It's going to be an impromptu tonight. I've had a wonderful weekend, a long trip out of town. So I just came back, and then right after I came back, I just went into teaching. So I've not prepared my discussion. I've not come up with any notes. I'm just going to do impromptu. And of course, engage with you on the chat to see if you guys have any questions or any comments, any thoughts on how to effectively begin a new skill. So this idea I've just kind of had floating around in my head, but actually, before I get into that, let's welcome the chat, because that's the whole tradition, right? So I do think Wolf 10 was first, and not only was he first, he gave me his signature greeting, and we had Aged Boomer tonight. That's wonderful. I'm glad you're here with us tonight, Aged Boomer, and Big Al also wishing me a great stream. Thank you, Big Al. I know, man. Did you do something? I've been busy this week, but did you do something like 5 nights in a row last week for live stream? That's pretty intense. And then Melissa Harris. So it's 10 o'clock. So hopefully she's here and everyone's all happy. And Netters Network says, that's weird. I could not see this on Sound Engraver's page. I had to get the title from Troy, search for it, and then I was able to get here. I think that's happening. I've been posting the notification or at least the actual video quite late because I've been busy during the day the last couple of weeks before teaching, and so I don't post anything until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And last week, and even into this week, I could not find my video unless I posted it under a playlist, like commentary or something like that. So it's very finicky. Between the dialogue between YouTube and StreamYard might be pretty finicky, but that's all right. We have you here to grace us with your presence, Netter. Thank you so much. And of course, the signature heart. I appreciate that as well. And always a treasure, Professor Geek. And it's especially nice that he says, I'm ready to learn, because he's a professor. That's extra sweet. That's extra kind. And so hopefully I say something worthwhile tonight. Troy says, this should be an interesting topic for us, for those of us with no skill of any kind. Well, that's not true. You and Netter have a pretty interesting set of skills. Culinary, you've got your knowledge of Star Trek lore, and you apply those two together, and you integrate also costumes and role play and reenactment and all that. I can't do that. You guys have a whole other set of skills that I couldn't even imagine starting. So no, that's not true. But I think you're just being cheeky. I think that's what it was. And back to the drawing board says, hopefully I can learn skill requiring techniques beyond read books, watch YouTube, and fail a lot. Well, making mistakes and failing, that's part of the process of learning something new, especially learning something new. Yeah, that's going to be pretty important. Sounds very clear to me. Cold over here, though. And I think you're on the West Coast, right? Yeah, I guess it's getting there. Yeah, I went through Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, Montana, I went through all those states during you couldn't have had better weather with those states. But now I think there's going to be like a cold front, and it was perfect. The traveling conditions were just perfect. And Chris P in the house. Hey man, good to see you. And everyone wishing everyone hello. That's wonderful. And then of course Melissa again. And we have people saying all their greetings to each other. And Troy Bocelli saying, actually, I was just fishing for compliments. Oh, feeling a bit down on myself today. Oh, well, I hope I gave you the compliments, because you're a creative being, both you and Knitter, and you guys have a load of skills. And also, I would go back to that culinary video of your Klingon. I want to say cleric, but I know you have another YouTube name for that, and I don't know what the name is. But you know how to do videos, and you know how to do all that art and preserving original art and kind of revamping images and colors and all of that. That's cool stuff. Oh, you're welcome. All right. So let's go ahead. No lecture today. It's just an impromptu with engaging in the chat, seeing what you guys think. But I was thinking about, just in general, people approaching a new skill. And this can be a skill, whether it's an extra skill in your field of expertise or something entirely different, entirely separate, something that might just better your self-enrichment, something you're curious about. But whatever the case may be, learning a new skill, there are great ways to doing it, and there are terrible ways to doing it. And as a teacher, I find that a lot of people that come in and out of my lessons, I mean, if I don't properly assess them week by week, they regress quite easily. Could be because violin is hard. It's a hard instrument to learn. Music is difficult to learn, especially if you're not musically, you don't have the natural ability for music. Maybe you're into sports. Maybe you have a natural ability in sports or writing or drawing or some other art form that's not music. Learning music does take a natural ability, but more than that, it does require proper instruction. So I'm using music as an example, but this isn't just specific to music. This is learning a new skill, whatever that skill may be. I'm just speaking as an experience, or from experience as a teacher, that in my vocation as more of a contractor music teacher, not someone who has her own private studio, I find that people do come in to learn lessons. Sometimes they're here for a month with me. Sometimes they're here for 2 years with me. But really, people start going after 2 years, really after 1 year. And this is not a knock on any of the studios that I work at, but just in general, retention is very hard for me. When I first started teaching music, retention, keeping students for long periods of time was a very difficult task. And my first year, it was just a slew of trial lessons and then people quitting, and then getting up to a year and saying I'm done, or getting up to a holiday season and playing a Christmas tune and saying that's it. I performed, I paid my dues, I'm gone. And it's not frustrating to me as someone who's into music, someone who loves music, someone who's a professional, someone who loves violin, who loves the art of violin playing and who loves the literature, the repertoire, and all of that stuff. It's not. I don't hold anything against people quitting violin because I'm a violinist, and of course I don't hold anything against anyone anyway. But it's been a telltale sign for me that people just do not know how to learn something new. Now, people could say, well, Michelle, that's your call. That you need to be there. But there's this running joke with me and parents saying, you should just live with us so you can teach my kid 24/7. So what that means is I only have half an hour with these kids or with an adult student. And if they don't apply my instruction for what they're given for 30 minutes, they don't apply that weekly, daily, frequently, then they will lose interest. And I think it's because people in general don't care for not being good at something. But that's actually what I want to talk about with building a skill, especially a new skill, is you have to be comfortable with doing things poorly at the start or slowly. Maybe not poorly. Maybe you're just learning a new comprehensive thing, but you're learning it very, very slowly. But let's backtrack just a little bit. When people are learning something new, this is just for anyone. And in our culture today, where we're so easily distracted, or where we find excuses not to do something, this is important. And I would say the most important thing you can do with learning a new skill is understanding. What's most important is understanding how important this new skill is to you before you start learning it. And the reason for that is to get better, you're expected to commit to it long term. So how important is it to learning a new skill? Let's say, well, I guess we could use me as an example. It was important for me to learn SuperCollider just out of curiosity. After getting a 2.1 in the first quarter and nearly failing the second quarter before I pulled out, I thought, no, SuperCollider is not for me. It's a done deal. I'm never meant to do this software, even though it's really cool and I love to learn. I'm just not a programmer. That's it. I can't learn it. 5 years down the road, curiosity took me. Curiosity. And this wasn't when I was a student either. This was when I was on my own having an 8-to-5 job, and I was just curious. I was thinking, maybe I should learn SuperCollider again. And it was the just curiosity that just cemented, and it kept me and kept my attention for a year straight. I told myself, I said, you know what? I'm going to give this a year. I'm going to give myself a chance, practice this every day for a year. And if nothing comes of it, I'll find something new. I'll find a new way to expand on my composition process, my music composition process. But I'm curious, and I need to give it a year. After a year, I realized, yes, the first year really was slow, and I had to be patient with myself, and it was trial and error, and I wasn't making anything impressive, not at all. But it was at that year where I found I could do more. And then it was a year after that when I found I could do more than that. And it was a year after that when I realized this is integral to my composition process. Still don't know a fraction of SuperCollider. Still need to keep learning SuperCollider. But I gave myself a year. I told myself, I'm not a programmer, but I know SuperCollider is possible. Let's see if I can do this. So curiosity and the understanding of, I wonder if I can do SuperCollider flexibly as a music composer. I understood the weight. I understood the significance. I understood the importance of learning SuperCollider as a completely new skill. You don't need to learn SuperCollider to compose electronic music. There's just a very small group of people. I think the community's growing. I don't really know anyone in the community outside the master himself, Eli Fieldsteel. But I think the community, the curiosity is for this program is growing. But it started with a very small faction of people, mostly university students. And now that Eli Fieldsteel has brought SuperCollider to the public attention with his YouTube channel, and hopefully some of my videos have helped a lot of people, I think the community is growing. But all that to say is I gave myself a year. I understood the importance. It was one of those things where I'm like, I know I don't need to compose electronic music with SuperCollider, but I'm so curious because sound synthesis and applying these, mathematical relationships and physics to in the digital scape. Oh, that's or digital landscape. That's pretty cool. Curiosity held me spellbound to practicing it every day. My schedule was this when I was working an office job was 8 to 5. So 7 to 8 commute, and then 5 to 6, maybe even 6:30, depending on how bad traffic was. There I go. And then as soon as I got home, I practiced for about 45 minutes to an hour. Maybe, okay, for violin, I'd probably give about half an hour to an hour, just depending on what I was working on. But still frequently, just, brushing up on my skills. And then dinner, and then straight into SuperCollider. And sometimes it was just days where I thought, is this really worth my time? I'm not gaining anything that I can see. And that's the whole point. Is when you're just starting a new skill, you're not going to see any gain. You're not going to see any progress. You just have to trust if you put in the time and the effort and the frequency, you're going to start seeing it develop over time. You're going to start seeing your skill flower. And as I say with a lot of my adult students, not so much my younger students, in math, we've got a linear line. Let's see if I can do this right. Okay, we've got a linear line like that going up. So from the start to finish, just a straight line. But with exponential interpolation, you start out slow and then ramp up really fast. And that's exactly what learning does. At the start of the time, you are starting slow. And then over time, with my case with SuperCollider, 3 to 4 to 5 years, you start ramping up in skill. And it's the same way with learning violin. You have to understand that you are not going to be good on violin the first year you do it, even practicing every day. Some people have natural ability. There are 6-year-old prodigies out there. And some people have a natural ability to learn it and be very competent on violin within a year. But the way most of my students practice, besides a handful of dedicated students, the way most of my students practice, they're not going to see any progress until they're outside of high school, the way they're practicing and putting, and eventually, putting in the effort, and eventually they'll lose interest because they don't see the progress. I'm actually kind of, I have to say, I admire some of my students for handling it and tolerating their poor technique after 2 years of just not getting what they need to be, where they need to be at. I kind of appreciate that. And I'm not saying that sardonically. They want to learn, and I think that's important. But when learning a new skill, no matter what it is, you have to understand how much it means to you. How important is that skill to you? For SuperCollider, it was just curiosity that would not shut up. I wanted to learn because I was just so curious. That was important to me. With one of my adult students, she's in her 60s, violin enriches her. Violin just enriches her soul. She loves violin. She, how it's kind of a trope where, you count sheep to fall asleep. Well, she works through her notes on the music staff if she can't fall asleep. It's awesome. I mean, that's cool. I don't do that, and she says, yeah, just learning the music while lying in bed, that helps me fall asleep. So that was cool that she showed me that. And she's a very, she's a good learner. She loves it. She applies it, and she works very hard. She's a nurse, and she has very long hours and very long days. So sometimes the practice is sporadic. Maybe sometimes it's frequent, but I know she doesn't play enough on the violin as much as she would, as much as she would if she was retired, of course. But all that to say is it personally enriches her, and that's what I love. So, maybe she learns at a slower rate after 3 years than another person would. But what's important to her is self-enrichment. It's so fulfilling for her to pick up that violin and just love it. And she loves the progress. She loves going through everything, these little songs and scales, and making mistakes along the way. And so that is something that's important to her, something that she finds joy in. I don't know if she expects to be even in an amateur orchestra. We've encouraged the idea, we've entertained the idea, but for her, I mean, I never want to have her feel pressure, because she already gets the joy of just playing the violin, just her in a room, just playing violin. I try to encourage her to, play in front of relatives or people, but if it just brings her joy, then that's enough, just to learn and progress on violin and get more advanced. So it has to be important to you. It has to be important to you. Of course, there's the usual thing where, parents will get kids into music lessons to get them occupied with something, which is great. I love it. And learning anything will help you learn something you want to learn in the future, if it's not a musical instrument. But in most cases with violin, I will have to be honest, most of the times it's the parents who want the children to play music more than the children themselves. And this was very unusual for me. And this is where I'm getting into the next point. So understand the importance, how important it is for you to learn the skill. That's the first thing you need to consider when learning a skill. Is this important to me? Is this worth my time? Is this worth the investment? Maybe it's a fiscal investment. Maybe it's just an investment on your time. So importance is first. But the second is you've got to be so clear and so objective on why you want to learn what you want to learn. With a lot of children, with trial students, some of them have no idea about the classical violin world. Some of them don't know anything about repertoire, and that's fine. Maybe they want to learn American fiddle or Irish fiddle, or maybe jazz. Maybe they want to play by ear or something like that. But it's not even that concrete. I don't know. That's usually the answer. Why do you want to learn violin? I mean, even something remote, like, oh, I like the sound of the violin. I mean, but I rarely get that. And so I don't expect, I'm not hurt when students go, when they see maybe it's just too difficult for them. Maybe I'm too hard on them or something like that. Because they don't have an objective. They don't have a song they want to learn. They don't have a musician they want to imitate or even emulate someday. When I was a kid, all I knew was violin, in that I wanted to be a world-class violinist. I wanted to play the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto in the best concert halls all across the world. That was my objective as a kid. Now, it doesn't have to be so grand as that, and as you can see, I don't do that. But it helped me practice, and it got me very clear on what I needed to gain that competency on violin. So I would say the person, whether it's learning a song, learning a violin concerto, learning anything, learning anything they want to be able to build the skill, that's important. You have to have a clear-cut objective on why you want to learn. So for instance, using me as an example, I don't see myself learning this in the next couple of years. It just depends on how life goes. But I've considered, I've played around with the idea, and if I do finally commit to it, I will commit to it for at least a year. And that is learning math again. So as a music student, you didn't have to go past algebra. It's true. It's kind of embarrassing. But I remember failing pre-calculus. Just had no idea what all this math was. But with sound synthesis, with SuperCollider, with things in physics and things in sound and psychoacoustics that deal with trigonometry, getting into calculus, I'm thinking I might have to learn calculus. I might not, but why should I learn calculus? Well, so I have a more in-depth idea of really what's going on in the computer science world of SuperCollider and the sound world. What's happening? What is happening in the sound? What is happening with waveform synthesis? What is happening with sine oscillation and frequency and additive synthesis and subtractive synthesis? What's happening with all that? Well, yes, I can learn by testing, but I can also understand some in-depth things with maybe something like calculus in the future if I'm getting more and more into sound synthesis with SuperCollider as I go. So that would be important for me to learn. It's like, oh, calculus would really, well, from what I could see, I could be wrong, but from what I saw, looking over calculus videos on YouTube, I'm thinking this probably could help me with my understanding of the sound world, the physical world of sound, and all that good stuff. So that's the first, the first thing is to understand the importance of why you're doing what you're doing. And it's in tandem with the second thing is you have to have a clear-cut goal. So actually my clear-cut goal was really to understand SuperCollider so I could see if I could do electronic music with it. But also, okay, well, I have another clear goal. Maybe I should be a little bit more competent in math because of the sound world. So being objective in those, that really helps people with learning a new skill. Now, it doesn't have to be anything in the professional sense. You don't have to build competence and even mastery with this new skill in the professional way. It can be totally self-enrichment. It can totally be something that you find so fulfilling that brings you so much joy. But whatever the case is, that you have to be objective in why it's important, why you want to do it, and ultimately what goals in the future. What can you see yourself doing 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 5 years from now, or a year from now? But understanding really the time. And time, I think, is something that people in our culture today do not appreciate. They don't appreciate time. They don't appreciate how long it takes to build a skill, to get better at something, to become a master at something. People need to understand that it's okay to become a master at the end of your life. People need to be okay with becoming a master and understanding that it could take up most of your life. Or if you start young, could be, okay, I'm not a master in this until in my 40s, something like that. I think people have they're quite shy, generally speaking, at least in this culture, how long something takes. It takes a long time to become excellent at something, and that's okay. So I think I'll stop there and just go into the chat, and we'll take it away with some dialogue and some exchange. Trying to sit a little higher too. All right. So yeah, just kind of to take with you, just as a recap, learning a new skill, understanding why it's important to you. Is it important to you, or is it important to someone who wants you to do it? Like a parent or a relative or a spouse or something like that. Or is it important to learn the skill? And then also having a clear or multiple clear-cut objectives, goals, not just, I want to learn a song or something like that, but, seeing down the road. Where do you see yourself down the road, 5 to 10 years from now? Oh, Jedi Master Zootopia, yes, welcome. Glad to have you. And it looks like we've got not Aged Boomer. I was about to get to your comment, but Wolf 10 is saying, hit them likes. Wolf has shouted, now. And yes, you've got your streams going on. And go ahead and just post those times on the chat when they are, because you know me now, I can't really keep up with you guys. Today's Monday, right? Tomorrow's Tuesday. Is tomorrow Tuesday already? I feel like I'm missing a day. Aged Boomer says, Sound Engraver. I have found that I was impatient when trying out my editing software last week. Oh, yeah. For your videos, I use it's a very comprehensive software, but I use if you're on an Apple, I use DaVinci Resolve. And it's a very comprehensive software, but it's free. And I just do, the chopping up, the fade in, fade out, and some crossfade if I make a mistake and I have to edit that out, and then you see the change of the scene, of course, and then render, and that's it. And my only reason for learning that software, and I'm only learning just the basics because I'm into sound, I'm not into video editing so much, was to find a way to have the black fade in and the black fade out, and I couldn't do that on Logic Pro. I was very sad, so I had to find a free editing software. DaVinci Resolve though looks legitimate. My throat might be a little bit dry. It's been dry the past couple days. Professor Geek says, how do you suggest new learners find the positive encouragement they need to continue in the midst of the necessary constructive criticism? For teacher-student relationship, it's and we talked about that last week too. I think it was last week, right? I can't remember. I really think it's students being objective about their own goals and really learning how to assess themselves and finding if they're achieving things and finding if they're not achieving things. My struggle as of late, and maybe I've had this and I've just only realized this, is students I have tend to just meander. They're just they have ambiguous ideas of what a good sound is or tone is or what a piece of music sounds like. I have a number of times where students are given a piece of music by maybe an orchestra director, and I ask, well, have you looked at this? Have you heard it on online? Have you heard a recording of it? When I was growing up listening to classical music, I mean, I listened to classical music, so I knew what these pieces sound like. And if I didn't know, we would listen to it in class, and then I would go listen to it at home, find a CD, find a tape cassette, back then. But find a way to know these pieces. And I think students maybe play it and they have the general feel of it, maybe just the technical stuff, nothing expressive. And maybe they say in their heads, yeah, I think that sounds about right. And then maybe they get discouraged when I say, this isn't quite right, And I have such an ear, I can, you can give me a Bach cello suite with these jumping intervals, and I'll be able to sing it through because I'll know I have such a knack for reading the music, and I think maybe children or students in general don't have a clear-cut idea of what it's supposed to sound like. I don't know how many of my students actually listen to professional violin playing, or professional orchestra. Just a professional orchestra, a professional orchestral recording of something. And so it's actually it's kind of, you're saying positive encouragement, but my positive encouragement where I say, oh yeah, I said it to a girl today, oh yeah, that was beautiful, that tone was beautiful, and I was kind of pushing her to get this tone down. Finally, she got it, and it was just great. I have a piece of hair in my eye. Sorry, one second. I might be blinking a lot. But yeah, I said, that's the beautiful tone. Well, does she hear it? Sometimes I ask my students, did you hear that? Did you hear that difference? And some nod, and I can see that they heard the difference. Some really can't tell the difference between a good tone and a so-so tone. So I think positive encouragement can only go so far as a teacher, coming from a teacher, if the student doesn't really have an understanding of it anyway. I think if the student understands or has an understanding, like, oh, I want to sound like this player, let me try to get to this part, and then it's reinforced and affirmed by the teacher. Oh, that's a huge difference. But I wonder, now that I think about it, if students even believe me. Oh, yeah, that was a great tone. That was a great tone. That was a great song. That was a great performance. No, performance wasn't quite there. I'm not sure. I don't know if I believe you. So I would say, yeah. I would say I actually pepper positive encouragement with constructive criticism. Very, very, very important. Back to the drawing board says, the last days of my high school orchestra experience was definitely a slog. I hit the cap of what I could do in the time I had to practice. Loved performing, but I was getting out of my depth. Now, do you mean you were excelling beyond the skill of the other performers? Or was it you could only do so much and that was the output? I'd love clarity on that, because that would be interesting. When I was in middle school, junior high, getting into junior high, I was in a very competitive orchestra, and I worked hard, and I think I started in I think it was where did I start? Because I was competent enough to be principal or at least second chair, second violin, so in the front. But I think I moved into concert master. I was like co-concert master with another girl, but it was very competitive. And then I came out of that, and I was a total prima donna. Oh, leaving the 8th grade, I was such a prima donna. Well, I had a rude awakening when I went into high school, and it was unfortunately a very, very mediocre orchestra, and I was like, I'm too good for this. And then my orchestra director said, we need someone like you to actually pull people along and challenge them. And it was good. And I had very close friends for the rest of my high school days in that orchestra. But it was rough. The 10th grade was fine. Junior high and high school, it was pretty hard playing in an orchestra that didn't have the caliber. But I made friends along the way too. But what helped assuage that was I was also in a youth symphony, and a pretty competitive one. So I was fine there. And then after that, I went to like a civic adult symphony that was professional, but not the actual city symphony. It's like okay, come on, you rockers, you electric guitarists. Pick a song that people ask you to play. I actually don't know that song. I mean, I know it, but I've never learned that song. I never really needed to know that song because it's kind of screechy. It's fast for fast's sake, and it's part of a song poetry. So you have the singer, and then the fiddle plays, and I never needed to learn that. Now, I think a very good fiddle song that demonstrates good caliber is Orange Blossom Special. In fact, I'll just write that. And I used to be so fast at this, and I just, whether it's my bow, my violin, or just regressing dexterity, I don't do the triple shuffles as well as I used to. I used to just hammer those triple shuffles, and I could do the motion of the triple shuffle, but I need a really good bow, and I just need to practice a little harder too. Math is good for us. Math is everywhere, but for school, no, I didn't need to go past algebra. As a software engineer, I might be able to help with both. As far as math, learning math, Yeah, I'm not looking for actually this would be more self-taught. I would actually just go to the library, look at YouTube tutorials and learn you know, on my own. But yeah, very cool. And as a software engineer, you probably would be able to do SuperCollider. The syntax is based on C++, I think. I think that's what that is. And Melissa's so spot on. Oh, I missed Troy. I'll be right with you, Troy. Melissa says music takes time and practice. Oh, it does. It does. And Troy Pacelli says, Sound Engraver wants to learn math and physics, harmonics. Sounds like a super villain in the making. Going to invent a sonic disruptor weapon? Apparently I can't say it, so no, I'm not doing that at all. Oh, I've had aspirations, man. I probably shouldn't admit this. I shouldn't admit this in public, but I've had dreams, like not dreams when I'm sleeping, but I've had thoughts of I could probably learn how to help with interrogating terrorists with SuperCollider. With some concatenative synthesis and you know, trying to find ways to hear, you know how when people are lying and they're under stress, there are telltale signs in the voice. Well, you know, SuperCollider could probably digitally capture that. You know, you can record it and you know, compare the samples, and I don't know. These things are just brainstorming. I don't even think that. I don't know. But anyway, don't even know why I mentioned that in public. Those ideas are long gone. But yeah, but no. I would use harmonics not to disrupt the world and the radio wave technology and all that good stuff. No, I would use it for good, Troy. I would use it for good. You know, it's kind of like oh, I don't think I'm spelling her first name right. Eddie Lamar, the actress. She and a composer developed this frequency hopping technology that thwarted, I think, French torpedoes. That actually thwarted torpedoes. That's awesome. That's awesome. So she was a beautiful actress, gorgeous woman, but also a brilliant scientist in the way of radio wave technology. Cool stuff. And so I would use my science for that, kind of that idea. I think one of the worst torture systems is actually replaying a song, especially a mediocre song, over and over and over again. I think that would be insidious for someone to play a song over and over again. And no, I would. What would I do? What, like, if my science could be used for good, if SuperCollider could be used for good, what would it do? I'd find a way to interrogate, not interrogate, but not intervene. I'm thinking of another word. I would try to find a way to break communications with terrorist groups. That's what I would do with my power. But you know, again, that kind of technology in the wrong hands would be a problem. So it'd have to be secret. No one would know. No one would know I would do it. I wouldn't talk to people about what I was doing. But by the way, guys, if you're thinking I'm actually doing that, that'd be like another 10 years of learning SuperCollider before I could do something that's sophisticated. And I'm only doing SuperCollider for music. Although I have entertained the idea of like stopping cancerous brain cells, using sound to at least decrease or stop cellular growth, cancerous cellular growth. Probably could be used for that too. I don't know what I'm saying. I got back from a long trip, guys. I might be talking nonsense right now. Wolf 10 says, it's impromptu, but ended up being an enjoyable lecture. Oh, cool. Good. I'm glad. Also, wholeheartedly agree with you on the appreciation on time. Absolutely. If someone were to tell me, let's say I was a 9-year-old kid, wanted to play Mendelssohn Violin Concerto in the best concert halls, and let's say someone could see that in me and say, are you comfortable with not doing that until you're 40 years old? Because as a kid, I wanted to do all this stuff at 18 years old, someone young, Now, I'm not saying people in their 40s aren't young, but what I'm saying is I had ambitions to really dominate that space right out of high school. And that didn't happen and didn't need to happen. I'm very content with where I am in my musical ability, and also just, as a composer, and also exploring writing and all that with science fiction. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy. But, let's say some person in the future, or maybe someone who had these, cognitive abilities, who could kind of see patterns and say, well, at this rate, you would be able to play this well at 31 years old, at 45 years old, or something like that. And I think that would be a wake-up call for someone to have that understanding. Oh, okay, so if I work this hard, I have to work this hard for 25 years, to get to that point. Now, for me, I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with not mastering a technique until I'm 60 or 70 years old. I'm totally comfortable with that idea. But some people aren't. Some people, I've heard people say, I'm 25 years old. Is it too late? No. In fact, I'm actually teaching a student. He's in college. I think he's 21 or 22. And I said, besides learning all these method books, is there a song you want to learn? I asked him last week. I said, is there a song you want to learn? And he told me, he said, listen, I'm getting honest with you, but I would just love to be able to know how to do the third movement of the Bruch Concerto. Awesome. That's hard. I mean, I haven't even mastered that concerto. I would have to go back to it. And I think I could if I applied just this constant practice. It's a hard concerto. And he, at his level and age, if he kept practicing and was diligent, yeah, I actually could see him taking on a concerto like that in about 10 years when he's in his mid-30s or something. But it kind of lightened my heart when he actually had a very specific goal. I want to learn this movement of this violin concerto. That's awesome. That's important to have. If he's fine with, waiting 10 years patiently, practicing every day and applying that, oh yeah, absolutely, he can. It's just if people want to make that investment, if they want to make that important. And maybe let's say he turns 30 and says, I learned a lot in violin, but I don't have the need to play this concerto anymore. Maybe it's something else. But he would have had that skill to go on to something else, maybe something different. Whoa. There we go. Also, Wolf 10 says, also wish my family had the patience with me to help me work on my math skills. And the Wolf Commander, what's the R for? WCR. I actually like that. That sounds like a station. a radio station. And the WCR is every Tuesday and Thursday at 2:30 Eastern time. Cool. Excuse me. I had a nice dinner right before, so. Oh, thank you for the shout out. I do appreciate that, Professor. Make sure you've subscribed and invited friends to the channel. Only 17 subs before Soundgraver reaches 1,000. What a milestone, too. And you want to talk about practice. I mean, so I think I'm at 983 right now, but I started in September of 2018, making a video every week. Every week. I know there was one time I was sick, and then a couple of weeks ago, I missed one Thursday. No, I still posted it that week. It was just on a Friday, but I came back from that extensive trip. Every day, a video. Not every day. Every week, a video posted, and that's what garners the subs. No one can really, unfortunately, it's kind of hard. It's a hard truth, but no one can expect a growth in sub count if there are no frequent videos. And people like commentary. They like short videos. I need to, of course, shorten my commentary. My sound experimentation has been pretty short, under 15 minutes usually, unless I'm doing something a little bit more or something that needs explaining a little bit more. But I keep my Thursday videos somewhat on the short side. But commentary like streams that can go for an hour and a half or 2 hours, I would probably in the next year, into this next year, I might find a way to chop these up and put them into bits and see, kind of stick with the important points of stream. But yes, thank you. 1,000. It will be a milestone for sure. If I could get this before 2021, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. But I do not want you guys to feel obliged. You guys subscribe to me if you watch my videos. I wouldn't want an obligatory subscription. Oh, I see. Thank you. Back to the drawing board. So you are clarifying. Not surpassing my peers, but struggling to keep up. I performed with some amazing musicians, but I always struggled to get a command of the material like they had. Oh yeah, it's a very intimidating challenge, but it's a good challenge. I've been in those circles where they outrank me, as musicians, and you just have to work a little extra harder. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Dr. Y is in the house. Nice to see you. Greetings and salutation, engraver of sound. Greetings and salutations, engraver of sound. Oh no, that's what I mean. Yeah, absolutely. No, I would never have anyone do my work for me. Yeah. So even if it's a slow learning process, I don't mind it at all. Professor Geek says, math hurts. It hurts. I believe that if I know the significance of math in sound technology, I believe I can learn math like I never learned in college or high school. The more I learn how to learn, and the more I understand that there are effective ways of learning. So even though I never passed anything higher than second year algebra, I know I could get back into math. In fact, I know I have faith that I could get into calculus if I knew the relationship between that and the world of psychoacoustics and sound. Absolutely. It hurts, but I think why people struggle with math so much is I was never taught the application of math. I was never taught why math was important. I only knew math was important for people who were going into science and engineering. I never knew why it was important for me as a musician. But the violin is an incredibly physics-based instrument. Music is incredibly physics-based. it can be a science. And so if I understand the importance there, especially in my composition process, I think I could learn math with a slow struggle, but not a heavy struggle. I think it'd be kind of fun. How would I learn math now in my 30s? And how different that looks if I'm in high school. Experiment 4 lyrics. I'll have to see what that is. I don't know what that is. Big Al says, didn't learn algebra until I was a paraeducator sitting in a class with a couple students I was helping. Wow. See, but that's important. I mean, that's important. Can you imagine needing to understand that just for that role, just for that position? That's interesting. Oh, you know what? Back to the drawing board. Yeah, sometimes I have random thoughts, and my random thought for SuperCollider the other day. So you're saying SuperCollider for fun and conquest sounds like a great topic for a video. I'm going to tell you this. You can do some pretty fun family games with SuperCollider because a lot of things could be based on chance or indeterminacy or probability. So let's say let's say I write gosh, I'm trying to think of a piece of syntax right now. Okay, so this is totally I'm gonna write some syntax right now. It's not gonna do anything. Try to find some random numbers. Okay, so I'm gonna show you an array. And I'm going to show you a method called scramble. So it shows you, if you were to put this in SuperCollider, it would probably show the receiver, the actual original array, so 3, 5, 7, 8, 11, 13. And then .scramble is actually randomly generating those in a different order. So let's say you had a family gathering and you pick those numbers and it's scramble. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to choose 5 first, 8 second, 7. And then and if you get 3 out of right and 3 is the highest, you win. You know, I mean, I was thinking like SuperCollider for family, SuperCollider for family games, like for Thanksgiving or something. It's kind of like, it's like Yahtzee, the dice and the chance and the fun and stuff like that. But SuperCollider has all these different things you can do for some sort of a family style game. Let's see, I think I skipped some. Well, the problem is, let's see. Oh, I have skipped. Okay, let me get to Al first before Sound Engraver. It would also be your superhero name, the SuperCollider. If you didn't use Sound Engraver, that is. I would love Sound Engraver. See, the problem is this SuperCollider is also that huge mechanical thing that's supposed to break apart atoms under the French-Swiss border. That sounds like something a villain would take over and control. Like, I'm going to destroy this planet, with the SuperCollider. And then my SuperCollider would counter that person's SuperCollider and I'd be Sound Engraver. And if my superpower would be like, I could travel through sound waves. And which means I could travel through space because I could travel like long distance radio wave technology. That would be my superpower. Something to do with sound. And then, of course, I'd have to be like high tech, into computer programming because I work in SuperCollider, of course. What would my a weapon be though? Now, as far as an actual physical weapon, I always loved the staff. I have always loved the staff. Now, the thing is, sound And vibrations and frequency can actually be pretty detrimental, if focused, or you hurt someone's hearing with high pitch or the decibel level. And I would never want to assault, even a villain. I would never want to assault anyone's hearing. I think that would be just totally cruel and crude, and I would never want to do that. So I'd have to find a way to incapacitate them. It's like Batman. He doesn't kill, so I can't assault a villain with radio sound technology. That would be just torture. I mean, that's actually used for torture. Something blaring at you at a high decibel rate. I mean, that's awful. I know there are criminals out there and evil in the world, but I don't know if I could ever partake of that kind of interrogation. I think it's kind of cruel. Agent Boober says, use it for good. Boring. I don't think so. I think it'd be pretty fun. I think countering bad guys with sound technology, I think that would be so fun. And the science behind sound synthesis and the math behind sound synthesis is the same as radio. Whoops. Meaning you could do stuff with communications. I'm sharing all my secrets now, guys. So you could thwart communications. You can maybe find a way to narrow the bandwidth. Maybe a villain is communicating with another villain on a certain frequency, and maybe you apply somehow you apply subtractive synthesis. I don't know if you could apply additive synthesis. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. Yeah, Hedy Lamarr, she was awesome. And Troy says, yes, Hedy Lamarr, you are spot on correct. Also keep in mind that every supervillain believes herself to be working for good. Well, let me just fight the bad guys. I don't know. I think Soundgraver sounds like a superhero villain. Come on, Prof, defend me. We talk about good, virtuous archetypes. I'm not a villain. No, actually, unless it's a joke, Chris P. I think it's Hedy. Is it? I have to look. I thought I was. Never mind. I think it's Hedy. But I remember her last name being Lamar. Oh, I don't know. Actually, I would walk 500 Miles by the Proclaimers is a song that you can play over and over again. And while it would be tortury for a bit, it comes around again. Yeah, I feel like that song. Well, I feel like any piece of music on repeat would be some form of torture, because people need silence too. I remember watching a documentary about this poor woman in her 70s. What was it called? It's a very rare condition. In fact, I don't even know if it was an actual condition. Maybe it was a dramatization of something. But she could not get How Much Is That Little Dog in the Window song out of her head. It was on repeat in her brain. It was like some temporal loop in her brain. She just could not get that song out of her head. I remember, almost before I became like a really serious Christian, I remember kind of crying for her and praying that it would be relieved of her, because I just can't even imagine having an actual condition where your brain won't make it stop. I think it's pretty bad. Yeah, back to the drawing boards. If I only had one song to hear for the rest of my life, that wouldn't be a bad choice. Yeah, choose well, guys. Choose well. Dr. Y says, I remember there was a villain on Lois and Clark who created speakers that could control sound, even create a wall of sound. Superband had to create the iconic boom to break through it. Or, the sonic boom, which I think is faster than sound by 500 miles per hour. I can't remember the speed of sound. I think it's over 500 miles per hour, I think. I feel like it's more. I feel like it should be more, but I could be wrong. Yeah. Depending on Wall of sound. How would that work? I mean, an actual literal wall of sound would be to have either one speaker generate an actual noise that is a wall of sound, or an installation of speakers that has a different frequency, and then and have it be a literal wall at a certain decibel level. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that kind of sound technology is pretty interesting in the sci-fi superhero world. And Wolf 10 says, I'm 33, still practicing basic jabs and kicks in kickboxing. Man, I gotta get back to kickboxing. I did it as a graduate, and it's a good workout. It really is a good workout, and it's such a stress reliever. Oh, just get all that energy out. It's really good. Oh, rambles. The R is for rambles. Thank you. Wolf Command Rambles. Wolf Commander Rambles. WCR sounds totally like a legitimate radio station. Oh, that's a good point, Daniel Craig. And I think that's a general problem that people have with mathematics in terms of how it's being taught. My problem with mathematics is it's only ever taught for mathematicians in a theoretical format. There's never relation to anything in the world. In a way that kind of was with music theory. When they put so much theory in music theory, it ceases to become music. It's only analyzed for the sake of analysis. Now, why I love analysis when analyzing, like a Beethoven sonata, for instance. Well, I want to see what cool things he did. What cool things he did in the structure and the harmonic progression that made a piece sound so interesting. That's the point of analysis for music analysis. That's the point of music theory. Music theory, I think, serves the purpose of bettering your understanding of the work or music in general. But when the theory gets too much to be so, because I've read journals, I've read music theory journals, and they go crazy. They go crazy. It's sometimes to the detriment of music itself. Don't assume that a professor of music theory who has written many journals or many articles in music theory journals, don't think for a moment that person can compose music just because they know the ins and outs of music. It's theory for theory's sake. So make music theory more important for music's sake. I would say to a student, why this sounds so important, or why you need to play this G sharp, even though there's not a G sharp in this key, is that it's a harmonic. It's a very important note in a chord for harmonic progression. But G sharp isn't in the key of D. Well, no, that's okay. We need to get lead into the A chord. Give it the 5 of 5. That secondary dominant function that adds momentum to the harmony. That's why you play that G sharp. So that's what I have to say. Yeah, I agree with you, Daniel. So, I have really no need to learn calculus ever in my vocation and in my life, unless I'm interested in seeing how it relates to sound and radio technology. Oh, good to know. There was a classic Donald Duck special about math. It was what inspired my philosophy to see art in everything. Just about everything. That's cool. I wonder if that's on Disney Plus. I'm sure it's floating around online somewhere. Oh, cool, Orville. Are you still here? Nice to see you. Yeah, sometimes your live streams are when I'm teaching, so it's kind of it's kind of a shame where I can't see you. But I hope you're doing well. I hope your channel's doing well. I hope all is well with you and family as we approach the holiday season. But thank you for the shout out. It's good to see you. Love it. That's cool. You know, you and people like Troy. You know, I gotta know more about Star Trek. I've watched the original series, and that's pretty much it. But if I started with Star Trek, sorry, maybe you guys have more recommendations. Like, no, you got to read the Gospel of John before you read the Gospel of Mark. You know, no, you got to look at this Star Trek before this Star Trek. I might just do the originals first because I enjoyed the original series from what I saw. You're giving me drawing ideas. For what? And what's weirding? What's with weirding module? Is that a math term? I haven't come across that term. I better look it up right now. I feel like I've seen that. A sonic beam weapon. Oh, wait, Dune. I was like, why does that sound familiar? Yeah, that's right. Cool. I was like, why does that word sound familiar? I was like, yeah, Dune. I got to finish Dune before this year. Because I actually had to stop reading Dune because I was so busy for my trip. And now I'm playing catch up with everything. So I will read Dune before the end of the year. I didn't finish it. I'd always imagine your superhero weapon being a violin, though a tuning staff would be amazing. I really think like you know, artists, you know, from anime and stuff, I really do think anime has really hyper romanticized the violin in general. I mean, I love violin, but it really, to me, it's its own thing. My weapon would not be my violin. And my weapon, if it was a staff, it would not be some long bow or something. And I wouldn't be an archer just because I'm a violinist. No, I love the rod, you know, whether it's a metal rod or something like that. I think wasn't it I think one of the first examples I had ever seen of that was it the older Teen Titans from the 90s, and Robin used kind of a metal rod as with his martial arts and all that. That always appealed to me. No, it's the same thing. I don't want to assault your ears, so sound engraver pokes the bad guy in the eyes. It's a mode for defending myself, but again, I remember my dad, you know, telling me all these things I needed to do to defend myself, to protect myself. And you know, he'd like, you gotta really poke him in the eyes and stuff like that. I was like, oh, I would hate to do that. I think I was like 13 or 14. I was like, the eye is like the eye is so precious, you know. The ear is so precious. Wouldn't your weapon be a giant tuning fork? What would that do? That only emits one frequency. That does nothing. Maybe if there was like some sort of fantastical element and there was magic involved, then maybe my magic charm of choice would be a tuning fork, and then it would what would it do? Well, the thing is, if it's able to break down walls, it's gonna really hurt your ears. So, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, again, the science of sound is so interesting, but as used as like a weaponization of it, ooh, that's so scary. Ooh. And if it was ever a thing, I would focus all my endeavors on using SuperCollider to combat that wicked technology. Dig Outlaw, good evening. Nice to see you. Nice of you to join on my stream. I hope you're doing well. I hope I think you've released something. Did you release this? I think it was the second book. I hope that's been going well for you too. Or if you have a campaign, just let us know. Yeah. Yeah, that's right, Professor Geek. I was looking at the exchange. I was like, Sound of Favor is aspirational, you heathens. That's right. Or at least I try to be. So if I had a character, there's a character, she would have to be aspirational, because I aspire to be like that. Looks like some people from Orville Nation's crowd is here. That's cool. That is cool. Let's see. Almost nightly for me, 3 to 5 regularly. Let's see. Are you talking about skills or building your skills? Which is great if that's the case. Yeah, absolutely. So probably about 11 o'clock. Oh, I'm sorry, 11:30. We'll see how things are. I have it on good authority. Superman's speakers are 3 stories high with woofers made of steel. Steel? I could imagine like tubes, like for circuitry. Steel. I don't think that's accurate. I could be wrong. Unless it's coated with steel, but I don't know. I don't think that works. You have to have like a chamber that works in the sound and processes the incoming sound and generate it digitally. So if something is analog, working with analog, like my voice going into a microphone, it's gonna have to process in a chamber through a tube for it to work. Now, I'm no speaker manufacturer connoisseur, but most of speakers are I have my speakers. My poor little speakers. I've got these speakers in the closet. They're great speakers, and ever since I moved to Raleigh, I've never used them. They're so good. What are they made of? I should check the material, what they're made of. They're very good. Now, woofers actually need to be on the ground. Woofers, if you're talking about subwoofers, they need to be on the ground, because woofers are about ground energy. You know, like maybe you don't even hear it, but maybe you feel it. So any woofers are on the ground. And then normal speakers with their chambers could be high anywhere. But we got to think about too. We got to think about wind if it's outside. We got to think of atmosphere. We got to think of elevation. We got to think about the air quality, because sound travels through air molecules. So if the air is really congested and not controlled at all, that could really cause some distortion. Like maybe the villain wouldn't be effective in their assault because maybe smog gets in the way. And I don't mean the dragon. Or maybe smog comes into the scene and says, I'm going to destroy this wall of sound. But then again, speakers can be very, very powerful, especially for outdoor pavilions and stuff like that. I have a great PA system, which I still haven't used. I had such ambitions when I bought this equipment. But I'm keeping the PA system because it's a really nice PA system, but it's slick, it's chic, it's got a good look to it, and I think it can reach a room. I think its peak volume can reach a room clearly, a room of 150 people. So like a smaller venue. Thank you, Orville. I like the stream. Great energy. Oh, yeah. I forgot she does that. I think she released, so I think Lindsey Sterling last year released an album called Artemis, and I think she uses her, I can't remember how she uses her violin as a weapon, but her bow is like used as an archer. Like, I think with the Artemis, the character from from mythology. So, pretty interesting. LJ Ferguson or Ferguson. Hi, nice to see you, LJ. It looks like you're in Star Wars like cosplay, or you have a really cool outfit that looks like kind of Star Wars. Welcome. Hope this stream has been delightful for you. Are you into music or into? We have kind of a geekdom community too. We like Star Wars. People like Star Trek, and I love Star Trek. I just don't know anything about Star Trek. I gotta watch Star Trek. Lord of the Rings, of course. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all that good stuff. I bet she's from Orville Nation's crowd because I see Orville greet you. That's great. Yes, LJ is right. Dune is a must read, and I must finish it. You know, I've read Dune. Now I've read Dune 3 times halfway through, and there's always been something that has cropped up and taken my attention. So definitely before the new year, I'll read the rest of it. Yes, more track. Then we can talk about scores. True, too. I would actually for Star Trek. I mean, the music that I've listened to with Star Trek, it is more of that cinematic orchestral idea through all the series, and it's more cinematic, like you would find with other movies of other topics, whether that's science fiction, action, whatever the case may be. What I'd be interested, and what I would love to do is try to find a kind of a guessing game. How do they make these sounds? What makes these sounds? Oh, well, the sound engineers for the original series used like a low frequency oscillator for some sort of alien communication, or maybe navigation controls used LFO sounds to kind of make it sound like you're doing communication. You're just really adding a low frequency oscillator, which is awesome. If you use a low frequency oscillation as a control, like for instance, what's a good example? Let's say you have a range of, I can't sing this high. Maybe you have a range of 30 hertz to 300 hertz, and then you're applying a linear sawtooth oscillator to control the pitch. Well, if you apply that to a range of 30 to 300, you get a boop, boop, boop sound. It's cool. I think it's cool. It's intermittent. So if you do that for the course of every 1 second, boop, 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 there you go. You used an oscillator to control a frequency range. And so I think I would do that for Star Trek. I would be like, how do they make these sounds? That would be my game. SuperCollider guessing game. But the thing is, I wouldn't know how to confirm it. I'd have to talk to the sound guys. Like, did you guys do this? Yeah, Wolf10, thank you for saying that. It was the 90s Teen Titans that gave Grayson his iconic staff. Cool. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. I wish I saw Teen Titans a little bit more as a kid. I remember watching episodes when it was on, but I don't remember much of the lore or the story behind it. I mean, I know all the characters, but I think it was never on when I was around the television. You guys are awful. Troy, and I'll get to Dr. Y. The eye is so precious. The ear is so precious. Yeah, they should have thought about that before they attacked Sound Engraver. I mean, I would only have to do it if it was a mode of defense, if there was no other way. It'd be like, it's like Wonder Woman extending the hand. Like, no, guys, I don't want to do this. Okay, if you're attacking my person, I have to do this. I don't want to do it, but I guess I have to. I've seen YouTube cartoon series where a character uses a magic tuning fork like a weapon that can control water and rainstorms. Yeah, it'd have to have a magical element because like a frequency isn't going to do anything. For a tuning fork, I have a tuning fork actually. It's it's in my violin case. It's at a frequency of 440 where I tune my A string. And so what is it? You just hit the metal forks and you can hear it in your head. You can put it on the bridge of the violin. And it emits the sound. But they use tuning forks for healing or something like that. Yeah, that's it. Singing bowls and tuning forks for healing. And by the way, like, people can say, "Oh, Michelle, you're a Christian. You shouldn't, practice those cult healing rituals or something like that." Well, of course, one, I don't. But the thing is, actually, sound does have it's a scientific thing. It's an ability to. We're made of vibrations, guys. We're made of cellular stuff and vibrations. We have souls too, of course, and we have a mind and we have a conscience and all that. But materially speaking, we're vibrations. So it makes sense, like if people do relax to a certain tone color or a certain frequency. Totally. All right. Oh, that's true, LJ. That the flute is used as well. I'm also talking about anime where I don't watch anime myself, but I watch two-set violin. And sometimes they'll refer to anime shows and cartoons where it will be about learning classical music, like a Beethoven sonata or something like that. And there's the Japanese really do romanticize the Western classical music, and especially with violin and cello. I mean, you'll see anime characters probably frequently that learn violin or cello. I'm not complaining. I mean, that's important. Now there were also things about Michelle, the Sailor Neptune, and her name was Michelle, I think, and she played violin and she played cello. I thought it's cool because Neptune's my favorite planet. It's like, that's cool. I think that's true. It's information I haven't looked at in like 20 years. So, all right. I hope not too crude, Wolf 10. That's all I've got to say. Oh, it's almost 11:30. Well, happy birthday, Seth MacFarlane. I know you've achieved a lot of good things. Wishing you a happy birthday. You never know who's watching. Yeah, Seth MacFarlane watching. I would be so ashamed if someone like Seth MacFarlane watched my stream because I really don't know much about him. I feel like I would be honored if a YouTube celebrity, not YouTube celebrity, but celebrity in general would come upon my live stream, but I would know something about them. I don't really know celebrities, guys. I don't really know anything about actors and writers and all of that. Like I know trivia, like the making of Lord of the Rings trivia, with Peter Jackson and stuff like that. So if he showed up on my stream, that'd be cool. But happy birthday, Seth MacFarlane, if you're watching. You of 16 people. Steel is a terrible idea for speakers. Isn't it because steel has like a built-in resonance. My comment is my bad. My comment is based on the lyrics from the first song I posted in the Professor Geek thread. Jam on it. Okay. Cool. But I like how you tried to explain it via physics. I'm kind of bad with the physics of sound as being converted to the digital speaker. Or through the digital, digitized into the speaker. I'm kind of bad about speaker technology. I should be better about that. I need to first get into radio wave technology. Yeah, Lindsey Sterling, she's definitely got an energy to her. I actually like a lot of her music. My one thing about her, and nothing to do with her violin playing, as a composer, it's actually more as a composer. I like binging on her albums from time to time. I do like listening to her stuff. She tends to stay at the same musical space, harmonically speaking and rhythmically speaking, and even tone colors, as an electronic violinist. Working with dubstep and violin and stuff like that. And it's great stuff. I mean, I'm not saying the harmony is bad, but she does tend to stick with the same. And it's good. It's very pleasing to the ear. So, I mean, I can probably listen. I probably can listen to Lindsey Sterling for about an hour and get that kick and stuff like that. And then I have to go into something else. I don't really watch her videos though. I am not a music video person. I don't care how well done the video is. It's its own art. And anything that tends to distract me from just the music itself, I tend to switch off. Now, that's not to say music videos shouldn't be. There was this one gorgeous woman. I can't even remember what she played. Was it cello or guitar? I posted on Twitter months ago. And it was a beautifully done music video where it was just her. I think it was guitar. She was in this beautiful gold gown. She had kind of like an olive skin tone and long jet black hair. And she was well built. And she was kind of at the centerpiece. She's like a statue, kind of just a centerpiece with her instrument playing just beautifully. She's world class. And then the cinema, she was surrounded by all these, this kind of old but symmetrical architecture. She was kind of the centerpiece of a pond with candles and stuff like that. Oh, that's a music video I could appreciate. But music videos that actually are more the video and the visual than the music, I tend to actually switch off because it's like, well, if I want the music, I'll just listen to the music. And for me, the music has to stand on its own. The music has to be good for the music video to work for me. If the music is subpar and it's a very showy, kind of ostentatious video, I'm not really into it. And her videos are creative. Lindsey Sterling's music videos are creative. It is more about the show. She's a showman in every in all respect, in every sense of the word, with all respect to her. And I think there is a need for showmanship in music. I like with Justin Timberlake or I was thinking Bruno Mars. There was another person I'm thinking of. Can't remember. Some popular, very popular culture guy, pop song guy. His name is escaping me. He's world famous. Sorry, celebrities. But that example of showmanship. And so her videos are very much that visual, fantastical idea, and very imaginative as well. But I can listen to just her albums on their own. I have the hiccups. Okay, Troy. For you, watch the Next Generation episode, The Inner Light. I want you to hear what you think of the flute piece in that episode. Oh, interesting. Cool. If it's available, see, I don't have any streaming, and I don't have Amazon Prime, so anything like I would watch, I would have to commit to for like a monthly subscription or something like that. Yes, thank you, Melissa. And I shall. With great power comes great responsibility. Use your sound powers responsibly, sound engraver. That's right. Let's see. I have a ways to go. So let me go through comments pretty quickly and maybe wrap it up in about 10 or so minutes. Because I've been away. I've been out of town, and I think I'd like to write or just get into the groove again. There was an episode of Reading Rainbow where I looked at a lot of Star Trek effects on how they worked. Can't remember how much they talked about the sound effects, though. And I think the sound effects for something like Star Trek would be really, really important to know. Really important to know. That's why, again, I'll say it again. I think it's kind of a waste with a film like the Jupiter Ascending or Jupiter Ascending. Visually striking. Such a striking piece. It's a strange movie. But for something of that scope, of that visual scope and that sci-fi world building, and I don't care if it's the solar system, man, it's science fiction, man. It's fantastical. It's got that scope. You have to work with sound design. You have to work with the music score and have it integrate specifically with that setting. No, not too much orchestra, guys, in the science fiction films, please. We gotta introduce electronic music into science fiction movies. I was listening to Fan Man. It was on the replay because I had missed his live stream, but I was listening to his intro, I think, to last week's live stream, and it was supposed to be spooky and horrific and kind of that horror element, of soundscapes. And I was listening to his stream, and I was kind of thinking out loud. I was like, is this supposed to be scary, Fan Man? This is beautiful stuff. This is gorgeous. This is gorgeous ambient music or ambient sound. Yeah, it's creepy. I think I'm blaring into the mic right now. It's creepy sounding, but it's also really haunting and beautiful. It doesn't stoke fear in me. It stokes wonder. I hope he's doing well. I'll try to catch him on the stream Wednesday. I feel like I'm missing a few. Oh, okay. Goodbye, LJ. Nice to see you. Welcome. And have a good night yourself. Oh, okay. Teen Titans cartoon came out in 2003, not the 90s. Well, we're talking about the old one, right? The older one with the much better, far superior animation. I thought that was the 90s because I was a kid when that was going on. No magic flute. One, as I don't play flute, and second, I wouldn't want you to be confused with my powers and abilities and the Mozart opera. All right, so Professor is in the house clarifying some facts about Robin. I'm going to have to be that geek here and specify that the bow staff is Tim Drake, the third Robin's weapon. The Teen Titans cartoon stole Drake's staff and suit for Grayson's Robin. Can I still like it? It looks cool. Yeah, now you guys are getting into the hefty, heavy lore. No, I do appreciate that though. Yeah, that'd be interesting to get to know those characters again. Oh, a steel diaphragm. Couldn't one make a speaker with a steel diaphragm? It would have to be really big, but it would work. Diaphragm would be a different thing. I'm thinking, and maybe so. Yeah, maybe so. I'm thinking of actually the chamber of the speaker and what it's built around. The steel, I don't know. I don't know the science behind steel. Excuse me. Sorry, I have something pestering, like a hair or something, pestering my eye. I don't know. I have to see. That takes research because I'm no physicist there. Well, I mean, Wolfton, I know you said Looney Tunes crude, but I mean, some of that stuff is crude. I would watch it. Now, I like Looney Tunes, but I mean, some of that humor is like, whoa, okay. That I missed as a kid. Now I understand as an adult. Sound Engraver or Daniel Craig says, I'm the same way. My gym owner's sons have a band, and every time they release a new song, they ask me what I thought of the video. I don't care. I listen to the song. Video, I mean, on the one hand, if you actually make a music video, I mean, that's a lot of work. You have to, that's a lot of work. So it is an art piece. I'm not saying there's no room, that there's no media for that kind of thing. There's no audience for that kind of thing. Of course there's a massive audience for that kind of thing. It is an art piece. It's when it ceases to become music and it's more video. You know, the first word is music. The second word is video, which is hard for us to kind of digest because visual really comes at us first. Well, no, that's not true. Me, audio comes first. I hear everything before I see everything, it seems. And that's just the way I've tuned myself to the world. But I've also seen bad music videos where the music is subpar and the video is fine from what I can see. I'm no visual artist or producer, but I'm thinking, well, no. The whole point of that video is to raise the music. Now, I also think music videos are kind of distracting. I'll give you an example. There's this group, they're pretty famous. I don't know how frequent, or maybe they're doing online stuff now. They're not on tour anymore. Maybe they don't even play together anymore, but there's been this famous group called Two Cello, these two cellists, which I think is kind of the most, let's just say I'm not a fan of the name. Two Cello. Now with Two Set Violin, that's a channel YouTube name. And it's their name because they're known for that because of their channel. But it's a two-set violin duo, you know? So two set, you know, that has that word in there. But two cello, it's actually the number 2 cello. I mean, this looks like some 90s kid in the 3rd grade, they just made up that name. I think it's the most unoriginal name for a cello duet. But these guys are really famous, and they've got their following because they're all good looking and stuff like that. They're like so cute. Oh my goodness, this guy looks like Jon Snow. That's another thing I can't stand. When I don't mind musicians looking good. I think female musicians should look beautiful. I think male musicians should look handsome. That's part of the appeal. But when it's just that, it's like, oh, let's ramp this up and be hammy. I can't stand that. Okay, where am I going with this? Well, they did a very beautiful, simple video on Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. Beautiful. They're like, one is in this beautiful pavilion, and then it's panning over to the second cello player. And that's an intimate, beautiful video. In fact, I'll even, just so you guys know what I'm talking about, it's how do you spell hallelujah? Oh no, I can't spell hallelujah right now. Hallelujah. Oh my, guys, don't make fun of my spelling if that's wrong, but you guys know what it is. That's an intimate video that's just beautifully done. It focuses on the cello playing, it focuses on the music. Well, they've done Michael Jackson, Criminal, I think it was. which is fun. It's fun, but it's kind of over the top. I think even with something like Michael Jackson, it's kind of over the top. But they did the Game of Thrones theme, which you guys, if you've heard me before talking about it, I'm not really a fan of the Game of Thrones theme. Never watched the show myself, but the melody is actually kind of dry. What makes it awesome is the percussion and the instrumentation. The melody alone is actually quite boring. Sorry, guys. It just is. The percussion and that deep, reedy cello, that's what makes it interesting. And that's the only thing that makes it interesting. You guys can debate me on that. I'm ready. I'll be here. But anyway, the two cello, the group, did a video of the Game of Thrones theme. And it's really weird. They're in this great vista, like the stone city. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful shot of this beautiful stone city. I actually don't know where they filmed this music video. But it's about it's about them playing the theme. And then they're dressed in kind of the garb, of course, of the show. And they're just kind of playing and playing and playing. But what I cannot stand, a couple things I can't stand. The first is when they're playing outside. So you do not hear reverb outside. You can hear an echo. You can hear an echo of the sound of glancing off the stone walls, but you don't hear reverb in the controlled sense. That drives me crazy. When I see a music video of an instrumentalist performing outside in this like open field and there's controlled reverb, it drives me bonkers because it's so not the case. That's not what you would hear outside. What you would hear would be like a distant cello or something. And they should actually do that. And they can amplify it and dress it up just a little bit to make it sound like you would hear if you were actually standing afar off looking on the cello player. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is like they have the cellos on their backs and stuff like that. And they're like being all dramatic and stuff like that. And maybe it doesn't appeal to me. I'm going on a rant, whatever. But anyway, but the Hallelujah video, I remember that being very, very intimate and very lovely. So music videos, I think have to be done a certain way for it to work, at least for me. If you like the controlled reverb in an outdoor field, all power to you. Let's see. This is interesting. The best music video of the past year was Hallelujah by Nana War of Steel. It's flashy, but it tells the story of the song. Okay. I might give it a listen or watch. Oh, good night, Orville. Thanks for tuning in. That really, man, when you're live streaming, I'll try to catch it. It's usually while I'm teaching, but yeah, I hope to catch you again. Thank you again for the shout out and coming on board. I guess I was already as close to the 90s now that I think about it. Yeah, it's not too far off. I graduated in 05. Oh, I think you did too because you're the same age as me. All right, I think I caught up with Chad. Yeah, I caught up with Chad. Hopefully all right. Sorry. Oh, I always hum that theme every once in a while. Although there's a YouTube channel that does covers in music in medieval style. I think Game of Thrones, I think that'd be that'd be such a challenge to hear that theme with period instruments. That would be unusual. It wouldn't have the effect, unfortunately. It'd sound cool. But no. Remember, that's okay, another rant, and then we'll close. Okay, we'll stop at midnight. I know I started at 10, so it was a little bit later, but This is the brilliance of Howard Shore with Lord of the Rings. Howard Shore used all the technology of Abbey Road Studios, and he used the full orchestra. He used the full symphonic orchestra. He even used different instruments of the world, like dulcimer. At one point for Gollum, he used, I think he used a Scandinavian fiddle that has a very different tone from the American fiddle, and the Western, going south or west, if you will, German, like different from German, German style violin or Italian make or something like that. Has a very interesting tone, has sympathetic strings. It has a very thin tone. You hear it actually when it goes da 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 da. That's from the Rohirrim theme. Howard Shore made a whole orchestra with the advanced technology of its time. And he still made it sound like Middle Earth. He still made it sound like, of course, we wouldn't use those orchestral instruments in that kind of world. Of course not. But you don't think about that when you watch that film. You're so into the world. Howard Shore was so in tune with that vision of Lord of the Rings that you don't hear a French horn. You don't hear a brass section. You don't hear trombone. You don't hear these relatively contemporary pieces of music, musical instruments. You hear that world, and that's all you hear. You can't do that with a thing like Jupiter Ascending unless you do it very well. If you can use the orchestra in a science fiction world, do it. But you've got to do it very, very well. And to do that, you have to be a phenomenal composer. You can't think, oh, this is a great orchestra score if it pulls the viewer out of that world. But Howard Shore, never, not once in all those 3 films am I ever pulled out thinking, oh, that doesn't sound like Middle Earth. And he uses the orchestra to do that. So he's very gifted in that regard. Oh, thank you, Troy. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna check it out. I'll be skeptical if they amplify it in any way that's outside the period pieces, the period instruments. I'm gonna be skeptical. All right, but in any case, I think we're all caught up. Let's go ahead and adjourn because I have to do a few things before hitting hay. But you guys must go to the Professor Geek Facebook group page. Try to say that right. For all your scheduling purposes, for all people and all live streams. We'll just I'll end it with this. Professor Geek, he's got his book study and he's got his rewatches. One more rewatch tomorrow night at 10, and then no, not a book study. Ichabod and Mr. Wow, what is it? It's The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, I think. But we're watching the second half of it, so it's actually going to be 2 rewatches this week to commence Halloween and the Halloween spirit. And after that, he's going to take a break from doing live streaming on the Professor Geek and moving over to the Catholic Bible Geek channel. And I think, Troy, we've got Star Trek Tuesdays coming on with Tuesday nights, but I don't know what's happening Thursday. If anyone's taking Thursday. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. I have a tickle in my throat. So anyway, I think that's what's happening. And then we have Fanman Second Cup Cafe Wednesday mornings for now, all for his teaching schedule. And we've got the rewatches on Saturday nights with either Big Al Presents, Netters Network, Troy Puccelli. Troy's going to take over Tuesday nights for some Trek topics. We've got Aged Boomer for his study hall, co-host with Troy Puccelli on Sunday evenings that I like to catch on the replay on Mondays. And we've also got soundtracks with Dan O'Haron, soundtracks with Birdman, Dan O'Haron, also Green Line Girl with her video game streaming. And I'm just going to let Troy do give him all the time he needs to do all those links. Also Fan Man tonight, although he's doing more horror rewatches for Halloween. And then I think he's going back to the Fan Man tonight on Fridays and Friday nights. I think usually 8 p.m. Eastern time. But yeah, thank you. Thank you, Melissa. I do appreciate that very, very much. And Saturday night, Young Frankenstein. And I think that's going to be on your channel, right, Big Al? And then, oh, yes, the Wee Watches, you know, with Mr. Matchstick as well. Excuse me. So I think that will be all for me. Okay, so he's got the Facebook group page. And I think with that, I will end it there. Oh, Netters Network, and then also your Troy, your channel, Troy. Don't forget your channel. But yeah, thank thank you. So I think that's a wrap for now. Thank you always for watching and listening, and always be on the lookout for some sound experimentation every Thursday nights, or no, every Thursday, posted every Thursday, and live commentary every Tuesday. And until I see you next, keep producing the art you love, and I will catch you later. Thanks again.